The curriculum is there for you. Here's Moorish mystery. Mysticism.
That's Jamal.
Africa. Moorish dominions. And we have a lot of other literature. And of course, if you
those are by Jamal.
And these are by these other last two are by Jamal. Now, point that I'm making to you, you have a lot of professors and scholars among your own. However, they have to publish in what you call in our own venues, because mainstream controlled media under the Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation is not going to give you this kind of information. No, they're not. Don't expect it. However, these are Aboriginal books by Aboriginal people with the true knowledge and a view of the world from the eyes of an Aboriginal, distinguished from an occupier or descendant of occupiers who are here to
asking you to hold up the vocabulary of the first book.
Yes, to extort or, escheat your land. And everybody should have this for their children. But that includes adults. And adults will quickly find out how much they've been miseducated. And shamefully. So when we share information with you, we have professors among our bodies politics who are more than highly qualified, to produce curriculum for you. And this is great for all homeschoolers. And of course, it's going to lead you to other writings by Professor Abdullah. It is, to be blunt, priceless. To be bluntly truthful with you. And it is sort of like, get back on your experience of loving philology, or loving books, loving to read, loving to study. Because knowledge is power. And those who logically don't want you to know that you're Aboriginal would promote ideas and statements and principles that imply, like as an example, a book like this says, see this? Black people are dead in law, so restore your citizenship. This is by the author Issa Rael, as an example.
You get that from Sister Cynthia Martinell. Buy this book. I'm going to put this on buythisbook.com.
So there's literature. There's much literature coming from Moors to bring remedy to our people. Invest in yourselves and invest in learning what's really going on. And again, because things are moving so quickly in the political economic world today, it's almost like things are changing by the day. So, how do you say, it's sort of like you're in a knife fight and people are talking about how many bandages you got. It's better to have some bandages anyway than none at all. And because a lot of this information should have been known and should have been with you from childhood. We must realize that we've been handicapped. However, if you're breathing, you can still achieve, a higher degree of knowledge by actually studying, in fact, reality and things that are going on in the real political world. So the economic problems that are plaguing our communities, which have been tagged with the nom de guerre, Black and people of color, those are tags. Those are nom de guerre. Write that down too. Nom de guerre. and you got to be familiar with the real true designations that have been falsely promoted as identifications. They are really designations. They're political designations that actually set in forth in political operations that such persons are dead in the view of law. And that's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. They're actually war names. It's called pseudonyms, but they're also referred to as war names. So when they're calling you Negro, Black, and colored, and people of color, it's actually an attack. But people who can't read don't recognize it, that it's an attack. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
And people want to carry, you know, that black title around like it's some badge of honor.
That's why it's promoted. It's promoted to rebury them. See, like a scholar would know, like say, for instance, when as the George Soros Foundation set up the Black Lives Matter program operations, right? The surface appearance for people who can't read think that it's put there to help us or to help our people, because they've been trained to call themselves that tag, and they think that's a helping hand. No, it's designed to rebury the people, because they recognize that there's a movement on the land where the people are becoming conscious. And even though they put a lot of effort to suppress information and to misrepresent information, and also even mock and make fun of the knowledge, the truth pedigree of the people who don't know, who can't read, think that they're addressing, or they set up this organization with billions of dollars to help our people. It's a reburial. And then I'll tell you this. If people would remove emotions, right, and just observe, meaning that if they would detach themselves and observe and just take note, they'll notice that everywhere where they put people out in the name of peaceful protest, they're tearing up things and burning things and shooting people and hurting people. And most of the people that are doing it are hybrid pale-faced Europeans. Some call them Antifa and other things like that. And the platform was created for that purpose, not really to help the people. If you pay attention, most of the places where they tore up in the name of peaceful protest, aren't they so-called tag Black communities? Mm-hmm. So now, the little bit of stores they did have, they tore them up.
But the people that have come in
from outside
are outsiders. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, the perpetrators are largely, if you look at those videos of that.
The issue is they're seizing the emotion side of our people being abused, implying that they're helping our people when they're actually burying them. And it's, again, even like I was talking to a brother, I think a week and a half ago or something like that. Yeah, a week and a half ago on 52nd Street. And he was talking about Black, as a consanguine identity. And I took him to a dictionary and showed him Black means pale colors. White spot, that's what Black means. And you know how many of our people who are alleged to be caring for our people will teach their children that Black means African identity, and that's a term of endearment, etc. It means white spot, and it means pale colors. It's nothing wrong with the word Black. However, it's a word that's put in place to escheat the people's estates. And because no one goes into the Unam Sanctum operations, for people who don't know the history, it never dawns on them that this was in place to steal their estates, to escheat their estates. Again, it's why this is a subject matter, about allodial titles and Aboriginal titles, because the Aboriginal title is superior. Logically, one must be in the consanguine connection with the Aboriginal right of claim to make that claim. This is where nationalization comes in.
I know there's someone on here that wanted you to expound on decolonization, but I wanted to say to
Oh,
the person-
decolonization.
But I also wanted to say that you couple like last month you did actually whole program on that.
Oh yeah.
So they need to go back and watch that video.
Yeah. Well, mention that so they can go back to that. You know.
They just go back on our site.
Yes, because all of it, nationalization itself is part of decolonization.
You were saying that.
You know, all the information shared now is a part of decolonization. You know, consciousness of your pedigree and consanguinity is denationalization. I mean, pardon me, is nationalization. I apologize. And the absence of that knowledge and the suppression of that knowledge is denationalization, which is what has been taking place, which has much to do with the support foundation of the existing conditions that the people have been falsely encouraged to call racism and prejudice, which is a total diversion, and it is a mind control operations dealing with taxidermy, etc., set up by the naturalist Frederick Blumenbach, etc., Johann Frederick Blumenbach, etc., Carlos Linnaeus, etc. And this is, you know, in your 1700s, and has been used as the foundation of prototypical explanation of human evolution on the planet. It's totally contemporary, and of course, been used as a weapon by colonial operators in the Western Hemisphere. This is why you will always see them always relentlessly bring up racism and prejudice, race and prejudice, race, and to ingrain it into people's mind. And it never dawns on the people that this prototypical operations by Carlos Linnaeus, etc., the 1700s, that is used as a weapon for schism operations, particularly by British, by English hybrid Europeans under Unam Sanctum operations, Doctrine of Discovery, the Crusade operations under the Spanish Inquisition, manifesting as Western Hemisphere colonial occupation, is a weaponized system to achieve the necessary cheat operations to claim the land. This is also why they fervently keep claiming to be Americans. It is a political strategy, and that must be understood. It has nothing to do with truth. It has nothing to do with honor. It is absolutely war operations, and it's a political strategy. That's why we have to keep reminding our people, stop calling the pale-faced hybrid Europeans Americans. They're not Americans. Don't be mad at them. It's just, you know, they're just thieves. You know, they steal people's lands and the resources. However, you're suffering because of it. You know, your families are poor because of it. Your people are packed into concentration camps. They'll call them city and state jails and prisons. They are concentration camps. Got broken families. Concentration camps. Margaret Sanger operations for the genociding of the people off the land so they could claim the land.
The Democratic vice presidential candidate is on record as having said, having not wanted to release the early release in California and Khalifa territory because it would reduce that in prison workforce population.
Exactly, because it's well, you know, it's connotative, but it's slavery.
Yeah.
You know, and he also called them roaches, called the children roaches.
Well, I'm talking about the vice presidential.
Candidate called Biden, called the children roaches.
No. When I said California, I'm talking about Kamala Harris.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about roaches.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm talking about
roaches.
phrases, statements that he has made.
Happened 4 blocks from here in the pool where he used to work right around here, where he said he liked to have the children play with hair on his legs and the roaches. But people don't hear that. Like that thing I sent you, they said we don't care about what he did.
Yeah, but you already know, and I know that he's running as CEO for the United States Corporation Company. It's not the country. And this is back to even some of the things that we've read here, concepts. People are still under the misinformation that the United States is a country. The United States is a private corporation under international law occupation of the Western Hemisphere. See, so if some of these things aren't, sitting with you in your knowledge base, you come off a false foundation and logically have false expectations, which is again why people keep getting frustrated with the voting process. They keep voting for change. Yeah, they do get changed. They get poorer. Their families are more broken. It's not your country. It's a corporation occupying your country. Country is Morocco.
Here's an observation I made. A lot of times we will look at other countries like, Panama or some other country, someplace.
Same thing.
We'll say these places, it's a shame they're under occupation, not realizing that we too.
Well, first.
Right.
Which is why you forgot you're under
occupation. We look out and see everybody else under occupation except us.
Yeah.
We think we're free.
That's part of the Gates Foundation training. There you go. So we know that this we didn't get in this condition overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. However, for whatever good that we can do to help the people, for them to become active, starts to dismantle the mind control systems that they're suffering from. The major issue, another issue is the more active we are, the less likely the next generation buys into the false platforms that we ourselves have been nurturing under ignorance, because we will stop practicing them. Because remember, the strength of fiat operations is the blind faith maintenance. It is meaning that the blind faith, are people thinking that this misinformation is not damaging, it's just a matter of somebody's opinion. But they just sacrifice the next generation. But they don't see that they've done it. And they have not taken responsibility that they themselves have done it. It's sort of like an enemy giving you arsenic and you feeding it to your children and you say, they did this to my babies. Yes, with your help. As an example, convincing women that they're helping women. So won't you want your breasts to be nice and shapely and featured and everything? Don't let your baby suck on those things. And so now your babies don't have their immune system together. Now they'll come stick them with viruses, actually plant them with nanoviruses and mercury and other poisons that create disease later
on. Yeah, that's why they would say
when the mother's milk is the true builder of the immune system.
But that's all they would say. I heard last year, I noticed last year, in the last couple of years, they had a commercial. And it says 1 out of 4 people born between 1945 and 1955 may have, I think it was hepatitis C, and be unaware. Now I'm born in 1955. So one of the things I was saying, the only way they could say
they
that
gave it to you
because that's a 10-year period.
They gave it to them.
That in
yes. Even
vaccine.
with the so-called polio vaccine, they were giving the people hepatitis.
Right.
But
another thing I wanted to say, as it comes to being colonized and under occupation, if the colonizers maybe had slanted eyes, or back then, remember Japan was here or some other. If the colonizers didn't look like the ones that we started to sympathize with, we would realize we were under occupation.
Yeah.
But we have been indoctrinated to working side by side, with the Albion, even though because we worked side by side with them when they were the white cargo. But anyway, so-called, we don't see them as that. We don't see that those who we were bringing up have somehow found a way to get an advantage over us and take over our.
So now you're looking at So for those of you who need some reference in history,
like if
go to Germany,
here, if we looked around and every place you saw Korean soldiers and whatever, we'd be like, we're under occupation.
Yeah.
But because we don't see, they don't look different.
The training
has
the
given
training
us
that
blinders to see.
It's sort of like the blinder is the misinformation. of them claiming to be Americans for generations and getting our people to call them Americans. And after a while, they start saying, oh, they're Americans. They just have lighter complexion. Duh.
They don't realize when Hitler so-called fell, when we don't believe he did the way they think, these guys came over here. They didn't just come over here and start NASA. They came over here and did a whole lot of stuff that we think is American.
Yeah.
They started occupying this place. They changed names. Their names changed.
Let's set up another fact.
Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. Let's set up another fact for those, since you brought that up. The average people here are being educated under the Gates Foundation that Germany under Hitler lost the war. The fact of it is they did not. As a matter of fact, NASA is dominated by the scientists from Germany who kicked U.S. corporations, our Sinskers. And the real deal of it is, this is why, as a matter of fact, the SS, or the Social Security platform and all that stuff, came from the SS. NASA is Nazi. It is. Now, it's not a condemnation, it's just a fact. That's why we read when you talk about the CIA, all the FCC, and NASA, all of them are foreign entities occupying the land. They're not constitutional. They're not constitutional creatures at all. But I mean, it's a known fact.
Not by all, by some.
It's a known. You know how like people know facts? Let's put it this way. How many people know the fact that Santa Claus is not real? How many people go in debt for sometimes years to support Santa Claus operations? How many people sacrifice things that their family needs to celebrate Santa Claus operations, and as a tradition doing it? Not that they should or shouldn't. I mean, we're not arguing about whether they should or shouldn't. We're talking about their dedicated mind into it. It is no different than people, and I'm saying that to say this. Do people know Santa Claus is not real? Fact. And this is back to what we were saying earlier. Upon any examination, any minor resource, the people know that the United States is a private corporation. They don't want to acknowledge it because they've been part of the fraud, promoting it against their own children and encouraging their children to be a part of it while their children continually being injured. And then calling the injury racism and prejudice, which is not only a fraud, it's severely irresponsible. It's almost like on another level of people being so busy being a fraud and not expecting for it to have a very damaging consequence. And when the chickens come home to roost, and we're suffering the consequences now, saying things like, the white man did this to us, and then even blame their own land. America did this. They not only not knowing, they're making dumb, ignorant, and invalid statements from an emotional perspective that actually pushes the guilt off of those who are responsible, and then allows them to hide behind their LLCs, which is the mask of corporate entity, and they call a person. You punch them and they're arguing with the corporation. And you know, the city of Wilmington sent me, city of Wilmington never sent you nothing. Can't breathe, can't think, can't move, can't act. Is some man or woman using that platform 90% of the times to rob you, not to support you, not to do anything good for you, to rob you. And that goes for all of these other entities. Now, that's the truth. And people don't want to take the responsibility to start looking at this and start recognize that they've been misclassified so that the Unam Sanctum Doctrine of Discovery operation can take place. Whereas the Aboriginal title would have been defense, and it is defense to block such activities that have been, how do you say, initiated since 1913 and has pretty much decimated our communities. And rather than take responsibility and tell the truth about what's really going on, they'll start talking about racism and prejudice and Black Lives Matter and start marching around the place. Fraud on top of fraud on top of fraud. And of course, the outcome is what? Is it beneficial? Is it progressive? It is totally destructive. Now, that's a fact. However, for those who are willing to use their divine mind and really have some desire to help the following generations, and while you're at it, help yourself too, start talking about Aboriginal titles and do all research concerning Aboriginal titles. You're going to be shocked what you learn, and you're going to be shocked to learn what your so-called Black leaders haven't been telling you. You think they love you and they want to help you. Maybe you can keep thinking it if you want to. However, the real problem we have is that while we're BSing around, we're getting to the point that we'll have no access to resources to counter any of this and will be totally expendable. Because from the political platform, they're already expendable. From the activity, the extinction operations and genocide operations has already been activated. However, to the point of no return is what our people should be concerned of. You know how they say, when you sit down too long while they're beating your ass, and after a while you don't have the strength to fight back at all, and you have no option of recourse. Meaning that while divine allows you some breathing and some opportunity of recourse, it would be wise if you stop being passive and start learning something. I mean, real substance, not opinion, but facts about what's going on. And among other things, Aboriginal title should be on the subject of all melanated people's minds, i.e., copper-colored people who are the Americans. Distinguished from the Paleolith hybrid Europeans who have been operating on American soil for the last couple centuries under Doctrine of Discovery and the Spanish Inquisition operations. Now, that's a fact, not an opinion. Anything else?
Let me say, let me see. There's somebody here wants to know if they want you to come and speak in Bermuda.
Huh?
If you could go look on a boat, I know you're not going to fly. Bermuda. Let
me read another one here to share with the people. And remember, the House in the future, she'll make those determinations. We'll get some of these printed up. It's about 3 pages.
Do you have it on a document that we can turn into a?
Huh?
Is it on in a computer or?
I have it on one of my computers. I have about 4 or 5 computers. I go on my old stuff. I'll find it. But basically,
it's what is all natural public notice. All natural people and citizens should be aware of these facts. Know that the following are laws and issues applicable at North America via the United States.
And they can take a screenshot of this if they can, and just for starters.
And then hold it up a little bit right there. So I don't know if they can. It's not clear.
I know, but you already know they could. We'll just start saying it to them. Matter of fact, we'll get this together and add this to the flash drive.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Add it to the flash drive.
All right.
Because it's very important. And let me see. No, this is again, and this is for those who have been affected or infected by persons and trolls who have been discouraging you in relationship to national venues for proper jurisprudence known as consular court. This would be a counter to those troll activities. Number 9, there have not been any lawful judges within the jurisdiction of the United States Corporation doing business at North America since 1789. There have just been arbitrators and administrators. Now that's a fact. Reference. FRC GE 281 US 461 Keller versus PE 261 US 428 First Statute 138 178. There are no lawful judges been operating on this land since